Hello everyone. Thank you for joining with me in this presentation. Today I would like to present a part of my PhD dissertation research related to climate change, resiliency of South Central Transitional Ecotone in US, particularly in Oklahoma. First of all, I would like to acknowledge my major advisor, Dr. Omkar Joshi, and Grant PI and dissertation committee member, Dr. Rodney Will, who are also co-authors of this presentation. I will briefly introduce my overall PhD research, narrow down to the objective of this presentation, talk about the study area and study method, describe results to address objectives of this talk, and finally conclude the presentation and take questions afterwards. Central forest grassland transitional ecotone also includes cross timbers and forested area is one of the most widely spread ecotone globally as well as in North America. Particularly in the United States, it is extended through Missouri, eastern Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. In Oklahoma, it is largely reflected by the area east to the red color region in the picture of the bottom right corner of this slide. The region has unique combination of pine and hardwood forest, grassland and savanna, and is one of the most dynamic ecoregion. The ecoregion is not only dynamic but also contains most productive pine forest. This region is often called as the tree basket. The region is also a habitat to several wildlife such as deer, elk, and endangered species such as red-coated woodpecker. The transitional ecoregion is impacted by several natural and human-induced disturbances such as climate change, drought, rapid temperature fluctuation, uncontrolled wildfire, exclusion of sky burning, urbanization, and encroachment of invasive species such as western red cedar. One such negative impact of climate change in Oklahoma is that the acreage of the shortleaf pine and shortleaf pine forest decline is one of the highest in its native range, as shown in the picture on the right side of the slide. Particularly, we can see decline in shortleaf pine in Oklahoma, which is reflected by negative change in the bottom corner of the picture. Some other impact of climate change in the ecoregion includes transition of savanna and grassland, pine and oak forest into closed canopy hardwood forest, fluctuation in water potential and water uptake resulting from drought, decline in tree growth rate due to too high temperature, northward shifting of natural habitat range of flora and fauna, increase in carbon dioxide leading to increased growth. Moreover, multidirectional change in climate parameters such as temperature, carbon dioxide, human intervention, and disturbances have introduced complexity and uncertainty in the management of dynamic transitional ecoregion. Active management of ecosystem can mitigate the negative impact of climate change and can restore the pine forest, savanna, and mixed ecosystem in the region. Further, active management can increase resiliency and adaptive capacity to mitigate negative impact of the climate change. Prescribed burn, thinning, and harvest are important tools in managing ecosystem to restore the native habitat and ecosystem in the region. These tools have been used by several agencies such as USDA, US Forest Service, the Natural Conservancy to manage forest and restore the ecosystem benefits. One such example is maintained in Pusmataha Wildlife Habitat Research Station. These pictures are taken from Pusmataha Wildlife Habitat Research Station. This is an evidence from last 35 years of active management of different timber with the different management tools such as prescribed fire, thinning, and harvesting. Active management can help us to create different types of ecosystem that we want, ranging from forest to savanna and grassland. Prescribed fire, ranging from 1 to 4 years interval, thinning, and harvesting have been used in different proportion to create various types of ecosystem, as reflected in the picture. Prescribed fire with 1 year interval in combination with hardwood thinning and pine harvesting creates more open savanna-like structure, whereas less frequent fire intervals, such each year for 4 years or without fire, creates closed canopy forest. Active management, however, incur money, time, and investment. Financial burden and liabilities issues are believed to be an important obstacle to manage ecosystem actively. The use of active management tools also depend upon the objective of land management by the landowners. Generally, Oklahoma public farmers and landowners are supportive of active management of their forest and grassland. Past research in Oklahoma also suggests the importance of quantifying the economic benefit from ecosystem to meet the cost of the investment. On that aspect, this research, in particularly this presentation, aims to explore and understand the land management objectives of Oklahoma landowners, identify preferred source of information delivery using extension material about active management, and willingness to pay for deer habitat management using active management of ecosystem in central transition ecoregion, particularly in Oklahoma. Going into the study method and design details, this study was conducted in 50 counties of Oklahoma, which is roughly east to I-35 north-south interstate highway. We bulk mail 2,501 survey to landowners in selected counties in two different lots and followed up with two different postcards, each after each mailing of survey, each of them sending in an interval of about a month. Landowners information was obtained from commercial vendors. Landowners above 160 acres of land was selected as a study population, as they are believed to have land sufficient in the scale of managerial capacity and can reap benefit from the active management. The respondent rate is the response rate is 20.32% after final postcard follow-up, and the data collection process has already concluded for this research. Demographic distribution of respondents. Most of our respondents are white Americans, about 83%, and about 11% are Native Americans. Virtually no African Americans and about 6% of more than one races are included in this research. The exclusion of African American in the research might be probably because they are not actively involved in the hunting or may not be typically represented in the Oklahoma hunting population, or simply could be a sampling bias of this research. About 87% of the respondents are male. About 90% of the respondents are about 50 years older. It is interesting that there are a few landowners and potential hunters who are below 30 years old as well as about 90 years old. Majority of our respondents have formal degree below graduate school, and more than one third have less than a bachelor degree. About two thirds of our respondents have income below $125,000, and about half of the respondents lying between $25,000 to $100,000. Most of our respondents are farmer or ranchers and are retired population. Business owners are about 7.86%, and other job holders not reflected in this job categorization are about 11.57% of total respondents. Further digging deep into some of the demographic characteristics based on gender, male has higher median income and education compared to female, but the age distribution is about the same. So, summarizing the demographic characteristics of the respondent, what kind of population am I talking about today in this talk? The image of hunters in the slide is a representative of respondent categories by this study. There are there are also typical type of landowners and hunters that we often see in the woods who are enthusiastic about hunting. Since one of my objective is about willingness to pay for deer hunting, I'm going to shape my presentation focusing on deer hunting aspect while prioritizing other land management objectives as reflected through research research result. Coming to objective one about the land management objectives. Respondents were provided with several objectives of land and forest management based on research and literature review and were asked to rate which objectives are extremely important to not important to them. Landowners of Oklahoma rated land management for livestock production as their highest priority, followed by land investment, biodiversity conservation, wildlife management. Recreational hunting is the fifth important objective among our respondents. Tourism and timber production are least preferred by landowners as management objectives. More than 75% of respondents said that livestock production is extremely important to them, whereas about the same percentage of respondents prioritize tourism as least important. About the active management activities, respondents were further asked if they have actively managed their land. About 89% of landowners mentioned that they have actively managed their land. Similarly, we asked if they were familiar with the fact that active management can enhance the fodder, forest, and timber production. And 92% of the respondents said yes, which is close to the percentage of landowners who are actively managing their land. As we asked if they are interested to know more about the active forest management, about 51% of the respondents are interested to know more about active management. This vastly reflects the interest in the new active management tools for the management of ecosystem, importance of extension materials, and opportunity to disseminate knowledge about active management among landowners through research activities and extension. We asked respondents to rate on their most and least preferred source of information about active management. Landowners mentioned that government agencies such as USDA, NRCS, and US Forest Service are the extremely important source of information, followed by one-to-one meeting with expert, fact sheets, and friends and family. Universities and research institutions are fifth extremely important source of information for active management, whereas social media and radio, TV, podcast are the least important source of information. Shifting gear to our hunting behavior, we asked if our respondents have hunted in Oklahoma in last 5 years. About 50% of the respondents have hunted in Oklahoma in the last 5 years. We further asked if deer is their primary gaming species. 71% of the respondents said deer is their primary gaming species. This reflects that deer hunting is an important part of hunting culture in Oklahoma. And we asked if they lease land for deer hunting. Only about 13.5% of the respondents have rented land for hunting purposes. This shows that even though Oklahomans are enthusiastic about hunting, deer hunting, and in overall hunting culture, leasing land for hunting is not quite often practiced. Modern hunting behavior. On an average, our survey respondents have hunted for about 46 years. Maximum number of years hunted is 75 years, which means some of our respondents potentially have hunted since they are aware of hunting behavior. They have pretty much hunted throughout their life. Similarly, average year of land ownership is about 48 years, and 160 years is the maximum. This shows that the land has been transferred to at least two generations of a family. The number of landowners leasing land is relatively small, but the average leased land size is about 1,420 acres, and maximum leased land size is 30,000 acres. This shows that landowners are interested in leasing land which is larger in size. On an average, our respondent observe about 8 deers per visit in the regular hunting site. Average one-way travel distance is about 11.5 miles, and average one-way travel distance to alternative site if their regular hunting site is unavailable is about 32.36 miles. If landowners have to travel for hunting to alternative site due to decline in the hunting quality of existing site they used to hunt regularly, they have to travel on roughly about three times their regular travel distance. This reflects the importance of maintaining and improving existing deer habitat and to maximize the hunting benefit and the hunt satisfaction of hunters. To get the recreational hunting experience, landowners are willing to spend on an average of $61.75 and up to $400 just to maintain what they have already have in their regular hunting site. Also, they are willing to spend on an average of about $13 and up to $400 for a deer in an acreage of land. Let's dig deep further into willingness to pay based on various demographics. Based on race, white Americans are willing to pay on an average of $13.48 per deer per acreage, and Native Americans are willing to pay about $20 per deer per acreage. However, we lack African American community in this result. This provides an opportunity to bring African American community into the hunting culture by policy intervention. Native Americans' higher willingness to pay compared to white American in our study might reflect their deeply rooted hunting culture since pre-Columbus era of American history. However, this is a subject of research. Gender-wise, male has about three times higher willingness to pay per deer per acreage compared to female. Male willingness to pay is $14.27. This is quite easy to understand as mostly male are actively involved in hunting activities. Based on age categories, if we exclude age categories, which is above 90 above 90 years. Highest average willingness to pay is expressed by the age group 31 to 40, followed by age groups 71 to 80, 51 to 60, and 61 to 70, respectively. The younger people might be more enthusiastic about hunting as an adventure and willing to pay more, whereas older age group might be more enjoying their retired life, going out, meeting with friends, making new friends, meeting with families, and keeping active during hunting season. Age group 71 to 80 is also the group that has highest willingness to pay among all participants. This age group is willing to pay up to $400 per deer per acreage. More interestingly, the result is that the highest average willingness to pay for deer per deer is among the oldest group and lowest is among the smallest age group. Based on job categories, farmers and ranchers are people with the highest average willingness to pay per deer per acreage, followed by business owners. Though older age group was one of the group with highest willingness to pay in previous slide, retired people have less willingness to pay based on job categorization. Based on education, less than high school degree has the highest average willingness to pay, which is about $62. This is about three times higher than one step upper level of formal education, that is, respondent with a high school degree or GED degree. Average willingness to pay per year per acre is about $21 in high school or GED degree holders. There are also groups showing highest maximum willingness to pay per year per acre, which is $400 per year per acre based on education categories. Willingness to pay per year per acre is least, one is 7.33 and maximum up to $40 among graduate degree holders. Based on income, average willingness to pay per year per acre is highest, which is about 27 among respondents with income category up to $200,000 or above. They also have the highest maximum willingness to pay per year per acreage, which is $400. Whereas lowest willingness to pay per year per acreage, which is about $8, is among respondents with income categories 25,000 or below. And they also have lowest maximum willingness to pay per year per acreage. We further classified willingness to pay per deer per acreage among hunters who take deer as their primary gaming species, and landowners who lease lands for hunting. Surprisingly, hunters have lower willingness to pay per deer per acreage compared to non-hunters, but maximum amount of willingness to pay is higher among hunters. Non-hunters are willing to pay about twice as much as hunters. This might be because contingent valuation is well known for overestimating the willingness to pay due to hypothetical and strategic biases. Non-hunters might have suffered from these biases or might have expressed their real willingness to pay as well, being more generous than hunters. This might be a subject of research. The willingness to pay per deer per acre for hunter prioritizing deer as primary game and hunter not prioritizing deer as primary game have about the same. The difference is only about 50 cents. Landowners who have leased the land have average willingness to pay about $2 more compared to those who does not lease land. Landowners leasing land for hunting are willing to pay about $15 per acre per year. Shifting the gear again, let's recall how Oklahoma landowners prioritize their land management objective in their rating scale. I'm going to dig deep into how the willingness to pay differs among management objectives. Five most important land management objectives are livestock production, land investment, biodiversity conservation, wildlife management, and recreational hunting. I'm going to analyze willingness to pay based on these management objectives of landowners. About livestock management, respondents saying livestock production as least important has the highest average willingness to pay per year per acreage, that is $20.83. Second highest average willingness to pay is $15.44, which is among landowners who said livestock production is extremely important land management objective for them, followed by third largest willingness to pay up $12.24 among landowners prioritizing livestock production as moderately important objective. So there is not a distinct pattern regarding the willingness to pay and prioritization of livestock management as important and important management objectives. The average, which is $20.20, and maximum willingness to pay per year per acreage, which is $400, is highest among respondents who prioritize land investment as extremely important land management objective. Second highest category, land investment is least important, has about half average willingness to pay per year per acre compared to above, followed by the third category, which says land investment is very important management objectives. Highest willingness to pay for landowners saying land investment as extremely important might be because the value addition to the land due to the deer management. Landowners who prioritize biodiversity conservation as extremely important land management objective are also willing to pay highest average dollar amount for deer management. They also have highest maximum willingness to pay. Their average willingness to pay per year per acre is $26.79, which is almost double to second highest category. The maximum willingness to pay per year per acre is $400. Second highest category is those landowners who prioritize biodiversity as very important land management objective. In general, landowners having a goal of maintaining biodiversity in their land has higher willingness to pay per year per acre. Interestingly, landowners who prioritize wildlife management as extremely important are not the landowners with the highest willingness to pay per year per acreage. Landowners who consider wildlife management as moderately important are landowners with the highest average and highest maximum willingness to pay per year per acreage. Their average and highest willingness to pay per year per acreage are $20.85 and $400 respectively. This might be because landowners focusing on wildlife management might be interested in managing land for more than one species or more than one gaming species. However, landowners who prioritize wildlife management as not important goal are also those who want to pay least for the deer management. Similar to wildlife management categories, landowners who prioritize recreational hunting as moderately important are the landowners with highest average and highest maximum willingness to pay per deer per acreage. Their average willingness to pay is about $20 and maximum willingness to pay is about $400, followed by landowners prioritizing recreational hunting as extremely important and very important. Most interesting but not surprising result of this presentation is that landowners who prioritize recreational hunting as not important are not willing to pay any money for deer management. Their willingness to pay is $0, represented by 8 landowners in our research studies. Final slide with the result of this presentation. Landowners who are actively managing their land are willing to pay about twice the amount of money compared to those who are not actively managing their land. Willingness to pay per year per acreage for active land management is about $14 and about $7 for non-managers. Landowners who are aware of active management are willing to pay more compared to those who are not aware of active management. Their willingness to pay are $13.53 and $9 respectively. Landowners who are interested to know more about active management are willing to pay about 3 times higher than those who are not interested to know more about active management. Their willingness to pay are about $18 and about $7 respectively. So, concluding remarks, this study is a representative of hunting community and landowners actively managing their land for various objectives such as livestock production, wildlife management, biodiversity uh, conservation, and so on. About 89% of landowners are actively managing their lands. About 92% of landowners are aware of the benefit of active management in their land. Government bodies, fact sheet, personal meetings, friends and family, and university are some of the most important source of information for landowners in Oklahoma. The willingness to pay for to manage one deer per acre is about $13 on an average. Males, non-hunters, Native Americans are more willing to pay than females, hunters and white Americans respectively. Landowners least who least prefer to manage for recreation hunting have lowest willingness to pay for deer management. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and I would like to open the floor for the question. And thank you for listening to my presentation.